So I have read the comments and I have heard them. Aaron, where can I go and I get luxury new construction in Houston without being forced to sacrifice moving out to the suburbs? And I think I got a few special treats for you today. And what I think you're gonna see is city living is clutch. There are some great things about it, but like everything, there are gonna be some trade-offs to it. And my hope is to show you a few different homes in the greater Houston metro. So you're gonna ride along with me, hop in the car, and we're gonna check out some of the great options that you can get at that luxury price point where you're not forced to pay all those high taxes and be on the burbs. If that sounds good, stay tuned. So for this one, we are in Acres Homes. We are in the Highlands Commons. And there are some pros and there are some cons to being up in this area. One of the things that you're gonna see very quickly when it comes to buying a home in the city is that we don't have very good deed restrictions. And so you'll see that you have this gorgeous community that you are in right now that has great amenities. This is one of the new ones where you get that pool and all that other stuff. That you wouldn't have gotten even in our home that we're in right now. We don't have that kind of amenity. We basically just have a gate. But what you'll see is that in many of these situations in the city of Houston, because we don't have the zoning that many of the suburbs will have, you are in fact taking over what was originally there. And so that oftentimes means displacing, that oftentimes means that there's going to be some level of disrepair around your home. And unfortunately, that just kind of comes with city living. But if you can look past that, you can see that you can get something gorgeous with amenities very close to the city where you don't feel like you have to go out to one of these big master plan communities. But that is definitely one of the things that you have to keep in mind. Houston doesn't really have the best deed restrictions. And because of that, you can get a gorgeous home like some of these, and you can be across the street from a dodgy kind of old house or a trailer park, just like that behind me. But enough yapping about that, let's look at what this gorgeous home is doing and some of these options over here. And so just taking a look out here in the Highlands Commons, this one is a optional 2.25 bedroom house, which is unusual for the city of Houston. Usually it's a pretty standard 3-bed, 3.5 bath kind of thing once you start looking at these city houses. But this is the smaller product over here. And this is their big boy and their new model home. Now that they got their amenities kind of up and running, pickleball courts, swimming pools, all that stuff. Let's take a look at what this one has to offer for us. When you're building a new construction home in the suburbs, to get this kind of look, you often are going to be forced to go to a design center and pay above what their base floor plan calls for. And sometimes that can be unfair. I know on this channel, I'll feature a model home that has $200,000 or $300,000 in upgrades in it. And you'll look at what you're seeing and be like, oh, the base price for this is $500,000, and in all actuality, the base price is probably close to $700,000. When it comes to stuff like kitchens, bathrooms, appliances, you're really gonna see that in the city. These builders really go all out because the whole draw is, hey, while I got you here temporarily in the city, we're gonna go all out. And you really see it in all of the finishes. So to show you a little bit about what I mean, I didn't give you the great reveal of what you can get in the city. And so all this wall of windows, that would be a structural upgrade in many suburb builders if you had this much height. So when you're dealing with being in the city, you're realizing that there's going to be trade-off. And one of the trade-offs that goes positively in your favor is that the finishes that you're gonna get are gonna be a little bit more top notch when it comes to being in the city. Definitely a vibe. Another trade-off that you have here is in the city, land is at a premium, right? And so you're not gonna have that backyard. There's no way to really put that, especially in somewhere that is gonna give you the amenities like this one is gonna give you. If you have a backyard and you're under a certain price point in the city, you are either gonna be paying a super premium or you are going to be somewhere that's a little bit dodgy and they're trying to encourage you to get that more family living in the city. On this one, this specific model now is their 3-story model that gives the 5-bedroom options. Looking at the old neighbors around you, that's a little bit about what I was talking about, the old residents. And I have mixed feelings about gentrification here. There's a lot of it in the city. You know, some of the houses are in disrepair, and then some of them are in good shape, but they will just literally be taken over by small developers and development around them. And that has pros and cons to it, depending on how it's done and if it's done well and tastefully. But there'll be some situations here in Houston where you'll have these 3-story buildings surrounding an old bungalow house, and it's just like, what is that old homeowner supposed to do? Just sell and leave back all their memories, sell at a discount to this developer so they can complete the row? Or do you stay and just kind of stick it out? And you'll see those kind of developments around Houston. I prefer this style where it's a little bit more tasteful and there's a lot of land kind of captured and it becomes its own little community in the city. Heading on up to the 3rd story, they are going to have this one kind of decked out. And this one is one of my favorites because this is the most unique. This one gives you that full-on comparison to a nice suburb house where you got spaces for media rooms, spaces for game rooms, enough bedrooms for everybody. If you had an expanding family that was young, that didn't necessarily need the schools, we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you had that kind of a scenario, this type of home would be perfect. And it's also under 500,000. And so this is in the game room. In some of the model homes, there would be a stereotypical pool table here. Depending on the configuration, they would probably jack and jill this thing and give access to it from both sides. But yeah, this is what you can get and what you can expect. And again, to mention, the price is under 500. I think as of the recording of this video, this is going for like $435 right now. So to get something that is, you know, 2,000 or so square feet can give you 4 to 5 bedrooms if you need it, or it could give you that flex space downstairs to kind of be like an Airbnb type of suite. It's really hard to beat at this price. So who is this one for? This home, in my opinion, is for people that are like me and my wife, or it's for people that just want to be in the mix, don't necessarily have the family plans that require you to be in a big master plan community where you're paying $1.5 points more for taxes. The schools that were once up here are running on some of the lower taxes that you can have in the Houston Metro. And as a result of that, they sometimes don't have the facilities, they don't sometimes have the testing. If you look at some of the scores for some of the schools tied to this area in particular, and this is not something that is a knock or new on Acres Homes and many of these gentrifying areas where you're gonna see these developers come in and do these kind of townhome style houses. Oftentimes the infrastructure that was in place for those communities wasn't the best, and that's leading to why a developer can come in and get so many acres to do a project like this. And so as a result, if you are having maybe kiddos at school age, this may not be a great fit for you, just because the reality is these are going to be C rated schools and below on average. And that's something that you would have to weigh out to see whether or not those niche.com ratings or those great school ratings scare you. But for many, if you're looking to be close to the city and want the education piece, some of the more affordable places like the Highland Commons, like we're in right now, aren't going to cut it for you, and we're going to have to go up and budget a little bit to see what we can get to give you a little bit more of a balance if schools are a priority to you. And so the first one was on the north side in the Acres Homes, kind of Independence Heights area, which is a booming area that side of the loop. Now we're going to take you over to the south side of the loop to show you another luxury option that you can get around that $500,000 price point in Houston. We are in. Super nice finishes over here in the city. They also have these are typically called like income suites, and so you'll have the door for like a secondary entry. I know over here in this community, they do allow short-term rentals, but with specific terms. So I believe in this community, you have to be present during the visit. So it's not like you can just go put this house on Airbnb and not be here. You kind of have to actually be an active host. One of my favorites. I've had a couple clients buy this style of product throughout the metro, just kind of depending on your budget and what your lifestyle is and what you plan to do from it. Urban Living is the same agency that was over the last place that we were at, the Highlands Commons, and so you're going to see similar themes and how things look and kind of feel over here in this community. Something to look at if you are looking on this side of the world for sure, and you are looking for a new luxury home. This is what they would call not a first floor living. You're gonna have second floor living, so you'll probably have some kind of your kitchen and all of your little office spaces, all of your nooks, all of that stuff will be off of the second floor, where your first floor is going to basically be one little room and your garage, and then your primary suites, everything else that you care about where you're going to lay your head is going to be up top. So we'll head on up to the third floor and check out that space and see if you like that as well. luxury finishes. That is the city. If I could sum it up any better, that is that in the city, you are going to get luxury finishes because the builders and the developers understand that there are sacrifices that you're making on schools, on overall space, on overall yard. So what they're going to give you is the best, most decked out house that they can give you in that range. And for what the community supports from a pricing standpoint, you're going to get some of the best finishes that you got in the area. And so you're paying a premium to be over here for a slightly smaller because you're in a better location. So you're going to have slightly better schools over here. You're closer to a couple of our arenas over here for sporting events. You're closer to shopping and things of that nature. You're closer to some more well-to-do, well-known communities. And because of that, you're going to pay a premium. Another thing to note is that, like the community that we showed earlier in the segment, this is an urban living development. And urban living is one of the biggest real estate agency developer relationship brokerages in the Houston metro. And what comes with that is basically you'll see their names everywhere. There's a few of them. City Quest is another one. Luxury Homes is another one. They basically have monopolized and cornered the market on these city homes. They've built the relationships with these builders and they represent them and put it off in the market and on the MLS. And so one of the things that you're going to want to note is the city, I'm not going to say it is more cutthroat, but the city tends to deal with builders that are smaller. And so it's not going to be the level caliber of a Perry Homes. It's not going to have the same ring as a Newmark or a Toll Brothers or any of these luxury builders that you think about in the space in Houston. It's going to be a little bit more dialed down because the companies that these urban livings and City Quest and all these people are representing in Houston are smaller companies. And so one of the gripes that some of my clients that buy in the city have when they're going with these kind of one-off developers is that the customer service experience, the communication, the feedback that you kind of get from the builders to and through me to you is sometimes a little bit rough and abrasive, and that's just because they don't have the resources to have a bunch of people on call. They don't have a bunch of customer service reps. It's usually some secretary for the company that if you call and you have a complaint, sometimes those complaints don't even get directly to the builder. It can get a little weird in the city because they're usually just smaller companies. And so I've had great experiences in the city and I've had some terrible experiences in the city, even with all of my construction experience. But you have to kind of weigh out whether or not, again, you want that more customer savvy, customer service based experience of the burbs, and we're going to be talking about dealing with much bigger companies. Or if you are wanting to deal with the finishes of what something like this looks like for what it'll cost in the city, while dealing with the schools that maybe aren't as desirable, dealing with not having the yard that you may have desired to have, all of those things kind of come into play when you have to make a decision on whether or not you want to be in a city house or if you want to be out in the burbs. This would be called like a super shower option, where you would be paying $5,000 to $10,000 to have it framed like this and have tile go all the way to the ceiling and be this big. And you get the bench. And so it's just what you get for what you're gonna pay in the city versus what you would have to pay as an upgrade in the burbs. It's not even close. And so this one, we are, for those that are a little bit more adventurous, we are in 3rd Ward / Edo kind of area. And this one is kind of more along the lines of hostile takeover. And so you can see behind me, these would have been like old bungalows that would have been here. And over time, more and more of these kind of like one-off, or like we're about to go and see now, which is kind of a little bit more of a custom build, has taken over. But for the most part, around the city, you're gonna see this kind of style townhome look and feel around that is basically just taking over the area. And so this one's gonna be up there. This one's close to 700,000. It's like I said, more of a custom build, so kind of getting away from the style of home that we've been looking at so far on the channel, at least for this segment. This is going to be a luxury product for sure, maxed out, a little bit more decked out than you would get for what we just saw. So let me know what you think about this one. So, lots of big windows that I'm seeing, lots of natural light. Some different touches because this is a more custom kind of finish and vibe. You're paying for a lot of details on this one. So because this is kind of like a one-off, smaller, it's not gated like the other sections were, or like the other communities were that we were looking at. This is truly like more of a one-off kind of situation. And so the rules don't necessarily apply as they would in the other communities that we showed today in this video. So what this is, but again, this is a step up in that luxury price point. You're gonna get some things that come with being in a community or an area like this that you wouldn't get. So the prices are gonna be much higher because you're paying for land in areas that are super desirable in the Houston Metro. Third Ward, Edo is some of the most desirable kind of areas that you can get in the city. And so you're gonna get a more higher end product over here. And so lots of space, enough for secondary bedrooms, enough for, you know, offices, enough for media space. You got basically room to make this space whatever you want to make it. Now this one's a little bit more unique because this one doesn't have a garage that I have seen, and in place of that garage, you're getting way more square footage. And so I think that many, given a gate, would probably take that trade-off. Actually, do you have a garage on this one? You do. So the one next door, it looks like they don't have a garage. They just have a covered kind of like patio, but that one's already sold, so we can't see that one, unfortunately. This one, you do have a garage. And so you're not even forced to sacrifice on this one to get this much square feet. I think this one's over 25 or 2,600 square feet. Right off the bat, definitely would be an upgrade in the burbs. You just got really high-end, really luxe, really nice appliances and finishes. 6-burner stove. That is definitely a super upgrade. Pot filler, range hood. All of these touches are next level, level 4, level 5, level 6 touches when it comes to the burbs. And one thing that you will not get in the burbs is a wall of window with city views. That is downtown Houston, people. Downtown Houston's that way. Medical center going this way. It's just vibes that you can't get in the burbs. And that there's no way to really slice that to make that sound better. It's just the case. And so one of the questions that you got to ask yourself is this view or something like this worth it? Now in this specific community, at this premium of a price point, you are getting some yard space, not a lot. Do you have enough to have a cookout and have a couple people over? Yes. Is it going to be, you know, what you would have in the burbs? Or is it going to be something what you would need? And I would think that for most people that choose the city, they choose to be by the bayou, they choose to be by all the amenities, they choose to be by all the shops and stores and things that they know and love and want to be around. And they'll make that choice to have this kind of a look and feel and be close to things and sacrifice the schools, or sacrifice having not so big a yard, or not having a pool. That's something that they're looking at that they can get later on. And if that is the case, then I think houses like these are going to be up your vibe, because again, some of these details, some of this board and batten, these nice tall ceilings, these nice, let's see if I can get the ceiling fan options, the balconies, just the things that you get when you are dealing with the city. Nice little actual balcony that you can use, right? The things that you get, easy access to all the freeways basically on every side. But what do you think? Is the city life for you? I've shown you 3 options today. 2 were kind of that smaller to mid-sized development where there's, you know, 10 to 20 to 50 plus options in a community. It has some pros and some cons. One of the pros is that it's going to be a little bit quicker turnaround to get things in and out built, because it's very uniform. There's only a couple type of options in each of those communities that I showed you in spot number 1 and spot number 2. You got one-off designs like this that are a little bit more custom, that are going to go even higher end than that, and still have all the minor conveniences of being in the city and close to all the things that you know and love with the city views. You got that all over Houston as well. Is that worth it to you to maybe sacrifice on yard space and the schools and some of the other safety ratings and all those other things about being in the city? Is it worth it to you? Only you can answer that question for me. But whether or not the city is for you or the suburbs are for you, I think that you are going to love this video right here.